So I'm going to do my topic instead. So in 2014, I was unexpectedly diagnosed with skin cancer. The shock of hearing the word cancer changed my entire attitude to the sun, and I went from worshipping it to being wary of it in an instant. The NHS did a great job of both my treatment and also of educating me on how to avoid further risk. I took the condition seriously, and I changed my lifestyle to avoid ever having it again. Lifestyle illnesses cost our NHS £11 billion each year. And while there are obviously many different complex causes, drinking, smoking, poor diet and the like are creating chronic illnesses like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer and obesity. These illnesses are not only killing the patients, they're killing the NHS too. And with all the pressure on the service, it's time for us to take responsibility for ourselves. If you insist on making bad choices and keep on getting ill, at some stage the NHS should be allowed to say no.
I agree, and I think that...
Let's just stop there then.
We're done.
I don't think Greg will.
I want to talk about obesity because Jeremy Hunt is absolutely bang on the money. Obesity is the fatberg that's going to sink an HMS Titanic. NHS, I mean, Titanic. We're all far too fat. If you look at newsreels of the 50s, have you noticed
I don't know why
how
you keep
skinny
looking at me as you discuss this.
No, you're lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
£6.3 billion a year obesity costs, by the way.
And you're right to say that, and there are some NHS trusts that are actually saying to patients who come in who are obese that you're going to go bottom of the list. You're not going to get preferential treatment if you present with a self-inflicted condition like obesity. Now, the Royal College of Surgeons has objected to this because they say the founding principles of the NHS are you treat people according to need. And therefore, if you have a hugely obese person coming in who desperately needs bariatric surgery, they should be treated. I have to say I'm with you on the strict nanny stroke bully state here. I think we're all getting far too fat. I think we need tons to be done about it. Otherwise, we are going to be digging our graves with our teeth and also destroying the NHS at the same time. It's a huge crisis.
Nobody wants to see the NHS sink, but I've got two huge problems with your idea. And I agree with the principle, that we should take responsibility for our lifestyles. But the first one is a practical objection, because how do you police it? You've got somebody who goes to the gym, doesn't smoke, but eats red meat every day, who comes with bowel cancer. Now, do you regard that as a lifestyle disease? Are they culpable for eating red meat? Where do you draw the line?
I'll draw the line, right. So, if you spend your life pulling these out of... Yeah, I'll give you one in a minute. If you spend your life pulling these out of your handbag, I'm assuming you can read. So if you pick a product that says this in bold letters and you insist on buying them and smoking them and going into hospital with an illness and then coming back out and smoking again and going back in. I'm sorry, but you cannot be entitled. Now, so I'll tell you, for example, and I spoke to my friends about this topic, and my friend said, what, you're going to let people die then? Are you just going to say to people, because you smoke or eat red meat or whatever examples we want to pick, I'm just going to let them die? My response to that is simple. The NHS makes decisions every single day. I will fund that and I won't fund that. And I have got so many examples. We probably all get this on Twitter.
And so many of them are problematic already.
Yeah, but we get so many examples on Twitter and stuff. Will you help me? I'm crowdfunding to raise money for life-saving bone marrow treatment over there. There was this little girl a few months ago, Nell Connick she's called. She's 5. She's got a tumour. She needs proton beam therapy. She's having to raise money from a charity to go to the NHS to get funded. She's 5. She's got cancer. They won't help her. But some guy who keeps wandering in over here with his gastro band that he's already had fitted, he can't stop eating. Best argument, he gets fitted again. It makes me furious. Greg.
But in theory, you're right. Everyone would agree with you, I think, except when the reality is being a doctor is you are there to treat and help people.
But
and to say to the doctor, I spent a year, a long time ago now, I spent a year of my life wandering around the health service doing a report for the government. And it's just all... I remember one doctor saying to me, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying to work out how to make this a more pleasant experience for the patient. And this doctor said, oh, God, don't do that. We've got enough patients already. We don't want more. And somehow within that, you're right, there is a never-ending demand. And at some stage, you might have to say to certain people, we can't treat you. But who decides? Is it because... So you pick on people who are overweight, or do we pick on people who drink alcohol?
Yeah.
I mean, if you go in on a fight,
alcohol,
you go into.
smoking,
I spent a night
food.
I spent a night as a porter well, they wouldn't let me move anybody because health and safety, but I spent a night as a porter in a accident department.
Oh, that's why. But
and I've got well, just to find out because I was doing this report for them, and I have to tell you, alcohol and drugs dominate Friday nights in any A&E department.
I always
Absolutely.
think they should charge if you come in pissed
How are they gonna
or
do
on
it?
drugs. They should charge. That's what a consultant said to me. We'd love it. It would clear A&E.
It would clear A&E.
The ideological part of my objection is that you also create this idea of the kind of worthy patient, and that really worries me. Who polices that? Do you, end up discriminating against people who...
You are a lefty.
No, you're creating...
Well, you don't.
I'm going to let that one pass. Anything, it's almost like crime where you only go after the people who are the worthy victim. They're innocent. They've never done anything wrong in their lives. People are complex. You had skin cancer. That's changed your relationship to the sun. I'm sure you still have other vices. We all do. None of us are perfect. And the idea that some of us deserve help from the NHS and some of us don't. And somebody polices that line.
We all deserve help.
When does individual responsibility come into this?
It's a really interesting moral question, but I wouldn't want to put it in the hands of civil
should we
servants.
treat fatties on the NHS
They get their first treatment free.
That's what I want.
And then it's graduated.
Yes.
And then if you don't show that you've lost a few pounds, so if you're a drinker and you keep getting cirrhosis or whatever it might be.
first treatment free.
First treatment free, as it is now.
So you're
First treatment free,
introducing-
absolutely.
I want to
But
point out,
then you have to show that you're trying to cut down on booze, or you're trying to cut down on fried chicken, or you're trying to cut down on cigarettes, and then we're there for you. If you don't, you're going to pay a fee.
Smokers
Done.
are already paying
Who's
that.
up next?
Now, how much of the cost of a cigarette packet is tax? I think it's like 80% now. I mean, people with bad habits already funding their treatment by the excess
But
tax
for most
that
of
they
us,
pay.
I look at people who smoke and think, what's wrong with you? Don't you understand? But there is something wrong with them.
Yeah. What?
And that's the problem. There is something wrong. There is something psychological. Because nobody in their right mind otherwise would smoke.
But
That's the thing, though. Nobody in their right mind.
Well, it's like alcohol as well. We all certainly the middle class is certainly over consume on wine and
Just
the
so I'm
various...
absolutely clear, the NHS should be there for everyone, so I'm adhering to its founding principles. But to quote Nick, when you go in and you get your first support, if you don't pay attention to the fact that you've made yourself ill, and I'm deliberately saying 40% of deaths in England are relating to behaviours, people's choice of behaviours.
So if you're a doctor and you're suddenly faced with someone who you can help...
George Best.
George Best.
Yeah.
Now, George Best, but was paid for privately, though, mind you.
Oh, his second transplant.
Had two transplants and
Both
then carried
private,
on drinking. Right, so... But if you're a doctor, what do you do in those circumstances? You've signed up to the oath.
If you're a doctor, wouldn't you rather think, thank God I can help that 5-year-old with bone marrow cancer?
You would,
because
but
this drug won't
you
stop
still
drinking.
have
I want to help.
But
Yes,
as
she
a
has a
doctor,
tumor,
you've
she's
signed
fine.
up to a responsibility to
Well, I
help
want to help the 5-year-old who's having to go crowdfunding. I don't see it as a... I
And this
really
is my
don't see
point.
that decision's done.
These doctors are making these decisions on a daily basis on what to fund, who to fund, who to help and who not to help. What I'm saying to these doctors is please stop doing repeat treatments on people that cannot be asked to change their own behaviour, and please direct that funding on people that are ill, like this 5-year-old, that cannot help it.
Nobody's looking at the root causes of why people do these things. We have sedentary lifestyles now. We have high levels of stress than ever before. We're getting money from tax. There's going to be a sugar tax. We've got a tax on alcohol and cigarettes. Instead of putting that into punitive measures, we should support people so that they have more help to give up bad habits.
Like how? How are you going to stop someone who's drinking?
No, I'm not saying
If
to stop them,
someone
but you
really
could
likes
support them. You've got to
please
look at
don't
the
talk
root
about
causes of why people drink too much.
Well, the only way you support it is buy them another bottle of scotch. They like scotch. They like cigarettes.
The story on cigarettes is actually rather positive, isn't it, compared to 20 years ago? And why? Because we banned them in certain places and people stopped smoking. It's had a dramatic effect, not only on their health, but also on the health of the rest of us, because we're no longer being getting second-degree smoke.
The Pledge and eating junk
All right,
food.
so from old hags with bad drinking and eating habits to our innocent children.